In the wild, nature's theater rarely spares us from its raw, sometimes grotesque, spectacles. Tonight, we confront one such haunting tableau: a leopard, majestic but marred by a grotesque assault. A horrid hive of bees deeply embedded within its flayed skin. This creature, a symbol of strength and stealth, now wears an alien burden, thousands of buzzing invaders thriving on flesh and pain. The sight is as unsettling as it is fascinating, transforming a symbol of wild beauty into a living canvas of decay and infestation. This wound is no casual scrape or puncture. It is a festering, pulsing hive where the foul odor of rot mingles with the relentless hum of countless bees. Their waxy combs have fused grotesquely to raw muscle, the hive's architecture built layer upon layer in an unholy embrace with dying tissue. The bees are not the bright, joyful pollinators we imagine. They are a chilling army exploiting this predator's vulnerability in some dark ecological bargain. The infected area bristles with agitation. Swollen, inflamed flesh oozes a thick, rancid liquid that seeps down in sticky rivulets, a ghastly cocktail of infection and decay. Observing this leopard, one might consider the initial trauma, a fight, a trap, or a failed raid on a hornet's nest, that led to this unnatural symbiosis. But what unfolds is more sinister. The bees take advantage not merely for shelter, but for proliferation. The heat of the leopard's body incubates their hive, accelerating larval development. The animal's immune defense weakens under the relentless assault, its wounds offering abundant nourishment for the hive's growing inhabitants. Swarms of tiny stingers puncture the sore flesh without mercy, while the leopard, trapped between survival and agony, struggles to rid itself of this buzzing plague. Delving deeper, this phenomenon is a bizarre interface between wilderness and parasite, predator and victim. It challenges our understanding of ecological roles and symbiosis. Normally, bees build their homes in safe, sheltered places, tree hollows, rock crevices, but here, the living skin of a top predator becomes a grotesque beehive, an inverted sanctuary. The relentless buzz is maddening. One can almost hear the harsh scratch of mandibles milling wax, and the futile growls of the leopard suffering. The bee's venom doesn't simply kill, they also attract other scavengers, turning the site into a maelstrom of life, death, and decay. The biology behind this dark infestation thwarts common expectations. The microbial and fungal flora thriving within the wounds hasten tissue necrosis, while the bee's secretions create a brittle matrix of wax and resin that holds the hive together even as the leopard's body tries to slough it away. The animal's movements become labored. Misery and weakness grow with each passing day. This is no passing injury. This is a slow-motion tragedy stretching across weeks. The hive becomes a grotesque effigy of nature's harsh dance, a place where life is both fostered and destroyed, an ironic hive of horror on the body of a solitary hunter. Now, picture the bees themselves, aggressive, relentless, expanding their citadel at the cost of their host's life. This infestation is no natural collaboration, but a parasitic coup, one that defies typical ecological boundaries. The bees use the leopard like a rotting vessel, exploiting its body heat and protection while draining its vitality to sustain a thriving but deadly nursery. In this relationship, the leopard is both prison and sustenance, doomed by nature's unchecked opportunism. This disturbing case compels reflection on humanity's role in the grander ecological story. Our encroachment on wild habitats fractures the delicate balance that keeps such grotesque interactions rare, or at least in check. Pollution, climate change, and habitat destruction stress wildlife, making them susceptible to conditions where parasites and infections become lethal breaches rather than manageable annoyances. We see animals debilitated by man-made injuries or weakened immune systems, falling prey to insect legions that exploit their pain. Much like this lion enveloped by bees, this unsettling tableau mirrors a grim moral twist as humans carve through nature with axes, and machines, the wild fights back in strange, sometimes horrific ways. The creatures we often revere for their role in pollination and survival of ecosystems here become agents of decay, turning a proud apex predator into a moving tomb. It's a natural irony. Balance skewed, roles reversed. Predator becomes in the quiet shadows of the pasture, where the innocence of nature usually reigns supreme. A grotesque spectacle unfolds. A white horse, once a symbol of purity and grace, now marred by an appalling hive of bees embedded in its flesh. This is no ordinary wound. It is a nightmarish infestation, a bizarre convergence of the natural world's beauty and brutality. The The horse's pristine coat, like fresh snow, is stained unnaturally by swollen, angry bulges pulsating with the life of thousands of invasive insects. The hive swells grotesquely, a swollen mass of wax and venom stuck to living tissue. At first glance, it appears almost otherworldly, a dark monument to misery and biological chaos. Bees, typically the gentle architects of pollination, and honey here take on a sinister role. Instead of nectar and flowers, this hive festers directly on the horse's living flesh. The insects embed themselves into an open, festering wound, likely the result of some unnoticed injury that has become an unnatural home. The white horse, a living creature with its own fragile essence, unwillingly nurtures this violent. Beneath the pristine, frozen expanse of the Arctic, a grotesque spectacle unfolds, one that challenges the very notion of nature's pristine wilderness. Here, a polar bear, once a majestic titan of ice and snow, now bears a sinister, oozing grotesquerie, a monstrous hive of bees embedded deep in its raw flesh. This horrific wound is not just a scar. It is a festering ecosystem of wax, venom, and buzzing torment. A hive that pulses with malevolent life, contradicting the bear's own silent, solitary existence. The polar bear's fur, marred and clotted with dried blood, and viscous honey-like secretions, houses thousands of bees that have invaded its flesh. These savage insects, driven by a twisted instinct, have stung and burrowed into the bear's tissue, turning its body into a living, breathing beehive, an insidious prison. The wound, raw and ragged, exposes glistening layers of muscle beneath the matted fur. The bees are relentless, their tiny bodies swarming with purpose, pulsating and writhing in a macabre symbiosis. Their relentless stings have inflamed the surrounding flesh into a discolored, swollen mass, dripping with pus and decay. The buzzing is an eerie soundtrack to this nightmare, a sinister hum harmonizing with the bear's pained snarls. This bee infestation, though bizarre, is a grim byproduct of environmental upheaval and shifting ecosystems as warming climates redraw the boundaries of nature's territories. Bees, normally the pollinators of summer blossoms, find themselves propelled into new. In the shadowed depths of a dense jungle forest, where light barely penetrates the thick canopy and silence hangs heavy like a shroud, lies a scene so grotesquely mesmerizing that it seizes the mind and refuses to release it. A lone gorilla, an apex giant of the wilderness, is writhing in visible agony. Its vast, muscular frame, usually a symbol of primal strength and unyielding power, is now a pitiful canvas marred by a horrific, swollen hive protruding grotesquely from its back. This nightmarish tumor is not a wound inflicted by the usual suspects of tooth and claw, but by an enemy far smaller, yet maddeningly persistent, the relentless invasion of bees. At first glance, this monstrous growth may appear to be some parasitic infection or a fungal spore colony, but the truth is far more unnerving. The swelling is a living, breathing hive constructed by an infestation of bees that have colonized the gorilla's skin, a bizarre, unnatural habitat forged from squalor and survival. The bees, encased within a sickening layer of wax and amber honey, buzz incessantly, their movements a tormenting symphony against the backdrop of the gorilla's pained grunts and labored breaths. The hive's surface is a grotesque patchwork of hexagonal cells, some cracked open and leaking viscous honey, others pulsing with the vibration of larvae and pupae inside. The air is thick with the acrid scent of decay, and the unmistakable tang of fermenting honey, mingling with the deep, musky taste of sweat and blood that taints the atmosphere around the suffering beast. Bee infestation on such a colossal mammal is a rare, disturbing phenomenon, a testament to nature's cruelty and resilience. These bees have somehow overstepped their usual roles as pollinators and honey producers, exploiting a vulnerability in this gorilla's skin, perhaps a festering injury or a compromised immune system, turning it into a grotesque hive sanctuary. The insects burrow beneath the skin's surface, secreting wax that gradually forms the framework of their unnatural nest. Their stingers don't merely defend this impromptu homestead. They provoke a cocktail of pain-inducing chemicals that inflame and rot the surrounding tissues, causing the gorilla's skin to bubble and ooze in macabre fashion. This infestation disrupts the gorilla's basic functions. Each movement sends shockwaves of burning pain, and each breath is tainted by the buzzing chorus of thousands of tiny stingers poised to strike. Scientifically, this symbiotic inversion is a dark anomaly. Bees typically flourish in cooperation with nature's rhythms, fostering life by nurturing plants and enabling ecosystems to thrive. But here they thrive in morbidity. Their hive a parasitic tumor, their buzzing a cruel soundtrack to suffering. The gorilla, unable to remove this foreign plague, becomes a living incubator of agony and decay. The hive sustains itself on the fluids that seep from the infected flesh, turning pain into honey and misery into sustenance. A harrowing cycle of exploitation unfolds, where the victim breeds its own tormentors, carrying a burden both external